Good morning or good afternoon. It's Thursday. This is Dr. Carol Lourie, and I'm here with a dear friend and colleague, Debi Robinson, who is a functional health coach, a yoga expert, and her focus of her practice is bone health, empowering women to stay strong in their bones. And I know for me, as a quote unquote older woman, this is like one of the main things I want to take care of. And I know for all of you who have been through or going through cancer, breast cancer treatment, and now are on either tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitor, it's one of your main concerns, which is why I'm bringing in experts to talk about this important topic. So welcome, Debi. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Carol. I'm happy to be here.
So let's give a little bit of an introduction to when someone comes in and how do you assess them? What are some of the things that you're concerned about?
So from a physical perspective assessment as a yoga therapist, I'm concerned about how they're moving in their joints. So I watch the movement patterns and then I educate them on where are the main areas we need to focus on. And I'm so surprised at how little awareness there is for women, honestly, whether you have whatever, cancer, no cancer, osteoporosis, osteopenia, whatever the diagnosis is, really this lack of true understanding of how we should move to either create more stimulation in our bones or to pay attention to fracture prevention.
I think that is really important, but I think it's a little deeper than that. I don't think women are encouraged to feel their bodies.
Yeah, well, there's a lack of awareness
Right.
totally. And my whole journey of how I got here is my body was broken at age 50. I had a major hip issue. I had a collapsed hip joint and a hip replacement. And even as a yoga teacher at the time, I wasn't a yoga therapist yet. Yoga therapy is 1,000 extra hours. It's a clinical training. I knew about my hip and I would say, yeah, I want stronger hips, but I didn't really know about my hip. And really, body awareness and understanding your body, I think, is such a key aspect to staying healthy, staying strong, and knowing what you need to do and, exploring that inside yourself. So, yeah, Carol, I mean, body awareness is so critical to all aspects of health.
So here we are. You're looking at a woman. How does she move? I mean, I don't think most of us know how to move correctly. I think that's just a statement of fact, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's what's important? What's important for healthy aging, for healthy bones? What's important for fracture prevention? 50% of all the fractures are in the spine, 50%. And a large aspect of that is postural and how we move throughout our day, how we hold ourselves throughout our day, and how we how we are standing, sitting, and that's the big thing. So really raising awareness to that. So all of the fractures from osteoporosis that are in the spine are in the front of the spine. And most people don't know that. Women
No,
say to
I didn't
me,
know that.
I have a fracture, and they'll point to their back and I'll say, well, you have a spinal wedge fracture or two or how many ever it is, but it's actually in the front of your spine. So as the vertebra is stacked, the anterior or front portion of the spine, the bones are actually not as strong as the back of our spine is. So everything we do all day long is forward, right? We look down with our head. And when your body is managing your on average 10-pound head, the head is 8 to 12 pounds. And so on average, let's say 10. As your body's managing that, whether you're texting, on the computer, cooking, reading, gardening, as your body is managing that, there's this forward pressure on your spine. So that's just from normal movement. I'm also going to bring into this aging, depression, fear, worry, and the postural aspects of emotions that come into life.
Yeah.
So the front of the spine, we've got to really pay attention to that. And really the critical area is thoracic 8. So the thoracic spine where your ribs are attached, thoracic 8 through 12, and then lumbar 1 and 2. So this is the area where almost all fractures are in osteoporosis, if in spinal wedge fractures. So really understanding all day, oops, am I pushing down on my spine? Are my low ribs pressing towards my back? Am I collapsing in the front of my body? So that piece of awareness, Carol, I would say is the number one physical awareness piece for all of us to have when it comes to spinal health and bone health.
Where are the most spinal osteoporotic fractures again?
So
T8?
Yeah, half of them are in the spine out of all osteoporotic fractures, and they're in thoracic 8. So right around your heart is 5, 6, 7. So right kind of where the lower, down near the lower ribs, that's thoracic 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the 5 lower thoracic vertebra, and then you have lumbar 1 and 2, which is right kind of right around belly button.
Right.
The DEXA scan looks at lumbar 1 through 4. So people get a DEXA scan reading of lumbar 1 through 4. And sometimes it's separated out 1, 2, 3, 4, or total spine. So you'll know that even if you have less density there, and you'll have a greater risk. You know, that's a whole other topic, DEXA scans and readings. But
Yeah, let's talk about DEXA scans. I'm not in favor of them.
You're not? Oh my God, I love that. You know, it's crazy, Carol. My podcast, Stronger Bones Lifestyle, I thought, okay, let me just ask these questions. Is bone loss reversible? Is osteoporosis reversible? What do you think? It's amazing to me how many professionals are showing up just like you to say what you just did. We hang our hat on a DEXA scan score. This is our gold standard. This is all we have. This is what puts the fear of gosh into us that we're going to break tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. For you, is it more about the radiation exposure?
It's radiation exposure, but my feelings about it are that we all have, I mean, unless you're living on a farm, like I know people who live on a farm and they're lifting bales of hay and they're doing animal work and they're walking and they're very active with their bodies. The standard American lifestyle encourages osteopenia and osteoporosis, every aspect of it, from how most people eat to how we spend our time, too much sitting. I mean, I make sure that I get an hour of exercise, whether it's power walking and or weightlifting or something, every day. Otherwise, I'm just sitting at my computer and, you know, walking around the house, doing stuff. But so there's that standard American lifestyle, which I think just pushes everyone into osteopenia and osteoporosis. And then you add breast cancer treatment on that with the physiology of what happens during chemo, radiation, and hormonal therapy, and then the emotional component of fear and depression and anxiety and worry. It's okay. You go get a DEXA scan, and then the next thing they're going to say to you is, well, here's a drug. And those drugs are a very mixed bag. So I'm not in favor of a DEXA scan. That's my professional perspective, but I want to hear what you think.
Yeah, I think that's great, because what happens, like the main area that I notice, not only do I look at them physically, but what I really, really notice is the fear that comes in, because this is your framework. And if you're told that you have osteoporosis or osteopenia, if you're told that, and then especially depending on what those numbers are, and then depending on the physician, because the physicians put fear into people as well. They threaten them that they have to take a medication. And so the emotional aspect, the fragility that comes into your mind with that actually causes you to move less, to move with more trepidation, more precarious, and to ask less from your bones. And like you said, it's the lifestyle. It's what we do every day. Ask and you will receive. The more you demand, like you gave the analogy, like we don't work on farms, or maybe people who do work on farms. Why? Because a farm worker is a worker, right? No matter whether you have money and you have a fancy farm and whatever, the fact that you're getting up, that you're doing something with animals, that you're planting, harvesting, that you have all that. So every day demanding more from your bones. Mm-hmm. And so the less you demand, the more you lose. Aging already is causing bone loss. Then you have factors of diet or lack of nutrient absorption, like gut issues, or then you have a disease state, which is going to contribute to all of this. So yeah, Carol, it is terrible. And it really is a worldwide epidemic, not just here in the West, but all over, bone loss. And it wasn't like this for previous generations. So
oh no, I mean, you know, before the Industrial Revolution, people walked miles every day. They had their home gardens. They didn't all live in a city. It was a very different experience. And as we've become more industrialized, we've lost touch with so much. I think I want to encourage everybody to get really back in touch with doing more with your body and essentials, where you're not relying so much on the standard American lifestyle. I have this slide that I share with my community, which is, a bell curve. And I have this arrow at the end of it, which says, this is where the magic happens. So the more you can get out of that, you don't want to be in the middle of that bell curve, anyone. That's where there's trouble. All the studies that are negative about recurrence are done on women who do not take care of themselves, who eat, go through breast cancer treatment, don't change how they eat, don't exercise, don't take targeted supplements, don't work on detoxifying their home, and then they wonder why they have a recurrence. You don't want to be in the middle of that bell curve. And that's what Debi is talking about. So when you run functional labs, Debi, what are you looking for? Because I know that's one of your areas of expertise.
Yeah, I'm looking for gut health and nutrient absorption. I run a stool lab to look for what's going on from mouth to bones, because even if you have a beautiful diet and you're taking great supplements, if your stomach is not digesting properly, if you have dysbiosis with bacteria, you have a lot of the root causes for bone loss are linked back to the stomach. So the stomach regulates hormones and minerals and acidity in the body. This is where inflammation, like some of the biggest triggers of inflammation occur, are in the gut. And so the labs that I run are really to look at the state of the gut. And then I run a hair mineral lab to look at mineral status to see, are you absorbing your nutrients? Or do you have the nutrients in the right place? One of them being calcium, because everyone goes through vitamin D and calcium supplements.
I know. Let's talk about calcium, which is really good. You're the second person this week who's talked about the importance of stomach acid. I want to say this to all the women who are watching now and later. I would say that the majority of Americans are stomach acid deficient. And so you think you're eating well, but then you're not absorbing your nutrients because you're lacking stomach acid. So how do you assess for stomach acid health, Debi?
Well, so stomach acid, that's really, yeah. And when I first work with women and I'm going to run a stool lab, I say, don't take your digestive enzymes, and I can tell that they don't know about these things. So we don't know about these things. So in our stomach, we need our stomach to be able to digest our food to the amino acids, which are the building blocks of all tissue, cells, hormones, skin, nails, and bones. And so we need the stomach to digest. Well, there's bacteria that can get in the way of that can affect the stomach acid. A stomach acid can be affected by the foods we eat, whatever's going on in our body, how long our body's been managing whatever it's been managing, the alkalinity, like some people drink alkalizing water thinking that that's a good thing, but that actually neutralizes your stomach acid.
Oh.
You need a really acidic environment in order to digest food. And then you need, so the things that really get in the way of that is chewing too quickly, not sitting down when you're eating, not being in a state to eat, but being in a state of fear.
Rush. Oh, I'm just going to eat for 2 seconds and then I'm going to be fine.
Or eating the standard American diet, like you were saying, eating things that don't even have the complementary enzymatic aspects. So it's there's harmony that happens. Like if you eat whole foods, they have enzymes in them, they have fiber in them, they have water in them. They're part of that process. And Carol, I ask women this all the time that are from different cultures around the world. And if we think about our own heritage, where did we come from? What did our ancestors eat? And almost every single culture has some kind of digestive support that was a part of their food source. And so we don't even have that anymore, right? The pickles, the fermented veggies, even like parsley, radishes, like things that were a part of many cultures, either meals or pre-meals, or even eating vegetables or some raw vegetables like salads, things that are going to be complementary. So I would say that the digestive aspect is what we eat, how we eat, when we eat, and with whom we're eating. So that's all. And when I say with whom, I mean, are there others around you, or who are you with in your mind when you're eating? Is it scared little you from as a 5-year-old? Is it worried little you at, now or before? So it's
I think that's really an important aspect. And I just want to comment on that. I was working with a woman who was anorexic, and it's amazing how and this is really true for all of you who are listening, if you have a problem and you think, oh, I've gone to 5 or 10 practitioners and I'm still not down to the root cause. Well, this is one of those women. And I said to her, so what was it like when you were growing up at the dinner table? And she looked at me and she said, nobody's asked me that before. And she grew up in a very abusive household, to put it mildly. And she just wanted to and get out of there as quickly as possible. And that was the root cause of her digestive problems, developing anorexia and everything. So you have a physical problem, but there's always a root cause to it. And there's always emotional component. And I found that to be true with every illness, whether it's anorexia or autoimmune or breast cancer, or we all need to look at bone health. We all need to look at what are the emotional contributing components that are creating this chronic disease that we can work towards getting better. That's the other aspect of the message here, right, Debbie?
Yeah, you and I are very similar like this. So in the functional medicine world, most functional medicine practitioners, whether it's naturopathic doctors, even whoever it is, say all disease begins in the gut. And yes, I have a program called Healthy Gut, Healthy Bones, and I really focus in on the gut. But I believe that all disease begins in the mind. And that is a big aspect. Just like you were saying about your anorexic person, I noticed myself eating. Somebody said to me, you eat so fast. I didn't even notice that. But when I look at my lineage, I come from poverty, like a major poverty. I've done all my genealogy. I know where I come from, and I know how poor my parents were and my grandparents. And so that eating quick, when you finally have the food, like we don't think about it, but we need to chew. They say chew 20 times. My teacher in India in my yoga therapy training said, you want to drink your solids. You want to chew so much that you've masticated, that you've allowed the juices of the mouth to digest the food, so that when you bring it into your throat, you're actually swallowing it. So it's digested enough that then when it goes to the stomach, whether or not you have sufficient hydrochloric acid, the digestive enzymes necessary, whether or not you have that, you're setting yourself up for success. So that's about feeding your bones, because it's really important that we do bring in the nutrients. And then there's other things that can happen after it leaves the stomach and the small intestines. And,
like,
so there's
talk about it, like not eliminating properly, like hanging out in your gut too long. And I think I read somewhere that 80% of Americans are constipated, and women, and, they say, well, I go every couple days, or even if you go once a day, that's not total evacuation, right? Let's talk about that.
Well, just what you were saying about the process. So it goes from stomach and then it goes to small intestines, and that's where most absorption takes place. So you need to absorb your nutrients. You need the right pH. You need that balance, that biochemical balance of what happens from stomach to small intestine, so that you have the enzymes. There's more digestive enzymes secreted from the pancreas and bile from the gallbladder to micellate the fats for then the absorption. You also need to digest your food so that you bring the food for the good gut microbes, which supports motility and elimination, like you're speaking about, which is going to be supportive of detoxification, which is very important when it comes to bone health and to cancer, is you need to have this detoxification, the pathways moving. So it's a whole entire system. And it's all along the pathway. Where are the issues? Where are things not optimized, and how do I optimize them? So yes, for elimination, you need to make sure that you have the food broken down, that you have enough good gut microbes that have that role of taking care of that. You need the fiber. It's like you need to create a dump truck. You need to create a dump truck with the fiber that's not broken down by your body, that then becomes a dump truck that all the toxins leave your body with.
So I like this perspective of a dump truck.
Yeah.
But I want to say one other thing, and Debbie and I always like to talk this way, and we're happy to share this with you. Fiber is not Metamucil.
Right.
Fiber is not Citracel, they call it, or something. I mean, fiber is not any of those advertisements over the counter that you see on television. That is not fiber. And it's always upsetting when a woman comes in, and I'm sure you've had this experience, Debbie. She's seen a GI doctor, and the doctor has said, well, you're constipated, take Metamucil, which is like asking somebody to eat this piece of paper. I mean, Metamucil gets into your gut. and it just absorbs any liquid. And I don't even know how people manage to go to the bathroom if they have constipation issues and they're taking Metamucil. So if you have Metamucil and a lot of it has stevia in it, which is also not healthy, please throw it out immediately. Right?
Yeah, throw it out immediately. Yeah, and but the fiber, when you're eating really plant rich fiber foods, then also you're bringing in nutrition, and we need nutrients to build our bones. We need nutrients to build our body. And so really thinking about bringing in the building blocks of all tissues in the body is what matters. So you want to support elimination, and you're going to do that through hydration. You're going to do that through movement. You made a comment earlier about a bell curve, and you said something about the bottom. What was the terminology you used?
This is where the magic happens at the end. When you're outside of that wave, you don't want to be in the middle. You want to be on the at the end of the bell curve, you know, where the line is. And the bell curve, people say, oh, you don't want to be at the end. And I want everybody to be out of that bell curve, because you're individualizing and personalizing your medical care, your lifestyle, the supplements you take, how your mindset. The more you individualize and personalize, the healthier you become.
Yeah, so I love that, where the magic happens. And I'm going to tell you where I believe the magic happens is through movement and flow. And so whether you are flowing in your stomach, whether you are flowing in your digestive tract, flowing with elimination, and then flowing in your joints. So back to the physical aspects of cancer and bone health, because physical body movement is actually going to move lymphatic fluids. And it's going to, especially if you match movement with breath, you're going to empower your mind to feel confident that, yes, you can, to take care of yourself, to make better food choices, to chew your food, to set yourself up for success. You're going to move your lymph, which is part of the immune system, to get things moving out of the tissues into the tissues. And then you're going to move in your joints. You're going to get your hydration in your joints, your strength in your joints, your muscles, your bones, your connective tissue. So things in motion stay in motion. And I believe with a diagnosis of cancer, with a diagnosis of osteoporosis, there's such a fear, a stop, like a precariousness of what do I do? So that's why I'm going to say that the magic happens in movement. One step at a time. One step at a time, one thing at a time, not getting overwhelmed with the enormity of what it takes to be perfect, but rather, how can I learn how to sit up straight and not contribute to that pressure on the front of the spine that eventually breaks it? How can I learn how to bend in my hip joint to create hip stimulation, leg muscle strength, so I feel empowered to actually show up fully in my life again? Because, you know, forward folding is what we're told not to do with osteoporosis, but it's not about forward folding, because we forward fold.
I don't know. What is forward folding? When we move forward, what's that?
Bending forward. When you bend forward, that's that. And the big no-no in osteoporosis is no forward folding.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's no forward folding in the spine. So you don't want to round forward to grab something. You don't want to bend your spine when you're going forward. You don't want it to be that you bend your spine to go forward. You want to bend your hip joint.
You want to engage your abdominals and come from your hips. It's a
very deep hips. Yeah. So the cue that I give for people that seems to like help them. Yeah. Imagine you have raw eggs in between on your hip joint. So in between the low belly and the top thigh are raw eggs. So when you bend forward, you should be cracking your eggs, and your intention should be to crack the eggs, looking forward and up, keeping length in the center of your spine. That's going to strengthen the glutes, strengthen your legs, activate the hip joint, bring that proper function into your mindset of how to move. So you're going to get that in your body, and then you're going to protect your spine and not contribute to those spinal wedge fractures that are debilitating.
I just talking about this and doing these few movements that as you were talking, my whole upper body feels different. And the other thing that what you're doing is, when you're thinking about everything that you just spoke about, you need to slow down. You can't rush through it. You have to really engage those abdominals and lengthen your spine. And it feels very different. And when you start lengthening your spine consciously, I can't believe, I thought my neck and my back felt fine, but it's like, whoa, there's too much tension in there. I need to do some stretching, more stretching this morning. I mean, it's very interesting the feedback you get from your body when you do these few movements. I love that. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Yeah, okay, so that takes us to how you kind of began this whole conversation with somatic awareness. You said body awareness. We don't have body awareness. So somatic awareness. The brain is incapable of thinking and feeling at the same time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so thinking is our primitive amygdala limbic brain. This is the back of the brain. This is whether you're worried about what you have going on in your life now, or the you at 5 years old, or all your grandmas that are in your head that survived everything they survived to help you be here today. So that part of you is the thinking brain, the worrying brain. The feeling brain is the part of the conscious brain. That's present moment. There's a sensory cortical brain. It's called the little man in your head. And there's a lot of neurons dedicated to certain body parts. So when you bring yourself into your awareness of your physical body, your somatic awareness, your present moment, your intelligent prefrontal cortical brain, you're not in the breakdown brain, the cortisol, the sympathetic branch of the nervous system. Your present moment, you've got that somatic awareness. And then once you learn this, you can't unlearn it, Carol. So you're going to be thinking about your raw eggs. You're cracking your eggs. You're going to be thinking about your spine. And that means for every single moment you do that, you're moving away from the potential of spinal wedge fractures. You're going to be strengthening your hips, strengthening your legs. And then giving yourself that break from a physiological perspective when you come present moment, you're going to allow your body to go into the place of healing and repairing and looking for that homeostasis.
It's so beautiful, Debbie. And I think that's what yoga does. And I know you've studied in India, which is really wonderful. Could you talk a little bit about yoga? Because I know for me, and I love yoga, but I went once to a yoga class for beginners who couldn't stretch. And this woman had all these like blocks and everything that you could use if you couldn't reach everything. And I was using every block for everything. Even though I'm in pretty great shape, I power walk and I lift my weights. It's a different form of body movement. So it is, right? And so I have a hard time with yoga because I can't reach anything and everybody else is doing all the stuff and I'm there with all the blocks and trying to figure it out. So talk about, listen, ladies, when you first start out at a new activity, you are not going to be good and you're going to look ridiculous. And guess what? Who cares? And it doesn't matter.
Well, wait a minute. You're not going to look ridiculous and it's not going to be good. It's going to be
perfect. Somebody went over to me once and said, God, you're not very good at this. You look ridiculous. And I went, yes, and thank you. I'm happy that I'm here. It's like, what's your problem? So, I mean, we have this negative conversation going in our head about it, right?
Well, we unfortunately think that yoga is a physical practice. Do you know that the goal of yoga is liberation from suffering? Well, that is the goal. And the framework, the book, the guidebook for yoga has 195 lines, 195, 3 are on the physical practice, and the rest are on the mind. That's so beautiful. Yoga is a connection of mind and body. It's you coming to this present moment, taking care of yourself. The physical practice is important and is part of the practice. The physical practice, especially after we leave our 50s or after our 40s, is for preservation of our body, because this is what you live in. And if this breaks down, you will not be happy, whether it's a diagnosis of cancer, diagnosis of osteoporosis, any kind of physical limitations. You will not be able to live a big, full life. So you have to take care of the package that you're living in, which is your body. And that's what yoga does. So, and the physical asana practice. So the postures that you'll see, like here's the end result. Here's what a warrior 2 should look like. Your warrior 2 might look different and it's going to be perfect for what it is. That's nice. So my goal as a yoga therapist is to share the postures that are going to stimulate the bones that are the most important when it comes to osteoporosis, strengthening the spine, the hips, the wrists in terms of bones, and then the muscles that are important, creating that joint range of motion and that flexibility that's important so that if you do fall, I call it dancing joints or dancing ankles, dancing hips. If you do slip, trip, stumble, or fall, which I think all of us are going to do no matter who we are, because, I fall, I'm in my 50s, I trip and slip because things happen, but you need the receptivity in your joints to be able to manage that. Because if they're not, and they're rigid and they're dehydrated and they're not fully nourished with good nutrition, then you're going to pull on bones and create fractures. And so bones don't break because they're fragile. They break because we fall. So yoga is perfect for strength, flexibility, range of motion, and then that confidence to actually do all the things you want to do in your life.
Love that. So how can women start with yoga?
So I actually teach 5 live classes a week, and I've done this ever since 2020. Before 2020, I was teaching 7 live classes. I teach 5 live classes a week because my body was broken at 50 and I am not going back there. So I do teach live classes on YouTube. And I do think it's important when you start with someone, you start with, now a yoga therapist has 1,000 hours of training. And to find someone that maybe is in your age group, you know.
Oh, 100%. You know, I don't want to have a 20-year-old or even a 30 or a 40-year-old tell me how to move. And, you know, I'm past that. And I agree. We need to find somebody that we can relate to, I think, right?
Yeah. And maybe there are some younger people that have had issues. I mean, my hip joint started, like I had issues in my 40s, and I was teaching to the aging population starting in my 40s. So I was beyond cautious. And that's, to me, the most important thing I do. Like, I'm hyper safe because of my own issues, because I have a hip replacement, and because of who I've taught to for years, thousands of people for years that are aging, that have issues in their tissues. So for me, safety is like the queen that we have to go for. So really making sure that you choose a person that gets it. And it's not, you know, even somebody that is more mature doesn't necessarily mean that they get it.
100%.
So it really has to be somebody that understands. If you have osteoporosis, I really think you need to see someone that specializes in bone health, and not someone who chose it because they know that it's a good market because there's a lot of people in that space. If they personally, like, I had a woman that came to me, she's working with a physical therapist, you know, a younger physical therapist. And she said, well, I'm forward folding with her, and then she has me rolling up one vertebra at a time. And I'm like, she's a physical therapist. She knows you have osteoporosis. You're a pharmacist, a retired pharmacist. No, capital N, no. Do not put pressure on the front of your spine. If you're going to forward fold at your hips, and only go as far as your body will let you in your hips. So yeah, Carol, you have to find the right person. I mean, that is
100%.
Yeah, you have to.
So how do people find you, Debbie? I'm going to put it in the comments.
So my website is debirobinson.com, and on there is my podcast. There's links to my live classes. I do have a free opt-in, Powerful Daily Habits, that has postural and structural and physical things to do when it comes to bone health. So that's also available. I think I'm going to give you a link to that, Carol. I think that I would give you a link to put somewhere.
I'll post the link in here in the Facebook page, the Facebook group, after the webinar, after this interview is over. Ladies, don't worry. I'll take care of it. My assistant and I will make sure you get that, because, you know, I've interviewed a lot of people, and I'm continuing to interview a lot of people. And I think Debbie really stands out as someone who really knows the functional perspective and also how to handle the physical component, and brings in the emotions, and which is what I do. We're very similar in the way we work. And there is this component when you've had breast cancer where you have a problem and you just go to the medical doctor and they give you a pill, and that's sort of the end of it. And I want to say that, just as with my program, you know, Empowered Against Recurrence, I put women through, we have this 5 steps, plus the 6th step is reducing side effects of tamoxifen and aromatase inhibitors. Bone health is a component of the 6th step. I mean, we all need to take care of our bones, but if you are on an AI, you are at 80% more likelihood to end up with osteoporosis. And the answer to that is not another pill, or even worse, an IV infusion once a year. Please don't do that. It's very bad for you, in my professional opinion. There are options to taking the drugs, which are a mixed bag. And the messaging that I think we want to share here is, you can't be a couch potato and think you're going to have healthy bones, right?
Right. But and you also have to understand, why are you a couch potato and where's that
Oh,
fear?
100%. If you're not feeling well, yeah.
Yeah. But but knowing that you can, and really taking the approach of one step at a time, focusing on what you can do. And when you get stuck, being your own cheerleader to just take one step, whatever that is, because it can be heavy, gray, dark, lethargic. And so thinking about the quality of what it feels like to be stuck, and to start bringing in, where can you bring in movement in your mind, movement in your body, by eating fiber that's going to get things flowing.
I want to say that, first of all, I didn't mean a judgment about the couch potato, because I've worked with many women who have what I call the couch potato syndrome. And it is a syndrome because you feel so physiologically depleted, and that means to hopelessness and depression and overwhelm, and you don't know where to start. So if you have couch potato syndrome and you don't know where to start, the first thing you do is reach out for help, because you can't get off that couch yourself.
Yeah,
And
hard.
there's no messaging in American advertising for that. There is a woman's depressed, she takes an antidepressant, and the next minute the house is spick and span, whatever the heck that means, and she's serving her family a picnic lunch. Reach out for help if you have the couch potato syndrome. Let myself or Debbie help you get off of that, because you don't need to be there, right?
Yeah. And Carol, you're right. There's a biochemical aspect to this. So we in the West try to do it with the medication, but there's a lot of biochemistry involved. So when you do start to bring in those habits that heal you, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or biochemical, you actually start getting a little bit more pep in your step and a little bit more desire. So, the medications that the physicians are giving, or conventional medicine uses, is a Band-Aid solution. It's managing the disease. We're talking about empowering you to give your life back, and to make, and all that is possible. And that is my mission. So my mission as a yoga therapist and functional health coach is to share what is possible when it comes to bone health, regardless of whether you've got a cancer diagnosis or whatever the issues are. What is possible? What can we do? And how can we be in charge of our body, our bones, and our mind?
I love that, Debbie. Thank you so much. What is possible? What can we do? And how can we be in charge
Yeah.
of our body and our mind?
And our bones, body, bones, and mind.
Body, bones, and mind.
Yeah, because, that's, like you said, these medications contribute to accelerated bone loss.
I know. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. It's a very serious problem. You're taking medications for osteoporosis, but then they contribute to more serious bone loss. That is.
Yeah, I'm working with a woman that had cervical cancer. And she said to me? She goes, I wish my doctor would have told me the medication she was giving me for cancer was going to lead to osteoporosis.
Oh, they don't think about
and
that.
And I thought, what? They don't say that? Like, they don't. And are there choices that are, are there choices that are given? So it's a broken system, Carol. It's not about, negativity towards.
No, not at all.
It's a broken system, and it's disease management, and it's a Band-Aid solution. And what you're offering, what I'm offering, are lifestyle empowerment. You be involved in the process, because it is possible for you to shift from where you are now to where you want to be.
100%. And the key is empowerment and your involvement and shifting and reaching out for help, because you can't do this yourself. And I don't know what it is about breast cancer, and I think osteoporosis is similar. It's like, you don't think you're going to do your own dental care, or you don't think you're going to fix your own car. Why is it that women think they can do all of this themselves through Dr. Google? It's a skill set, and it takes years of studying to know how to put all of this together. And I want to encourage all of you, if you're having difficulty, especially with your bones, you can reach out to me. If you can't find Debbie, I will direct you to her. And if you're having really difficult time with your breast cancer recovery, or even if you're in treatment, please reach out to me. This is my wheelhouse, and you can tell that both of us love what we do, and we're very passionate in helping women become empowered. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Debbie, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
this was one of our most exciting interviews. Ladies, it's Carol Lourie signing off for now, and there'll be more guest experts later. Reach out to me if you have any difficulties, support at thepathofbreastcancer.com. You can always message me here, and I will get you in touch with Debi if you need to, but her website is in the links here in the comments. You're quite welcome, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye for now.
Bye.